Well, hello, my fact hunters. I hope you've got your funny bones all ready to go for this week's episode, because for this week, I want you to go out and find me facts about funny bones, skeletons, things like that. Go away and find me lots of facts about all of those things.
This is going to be a humorous episode.
Hello, listeners. Welcome back to the Big Fact Hunt, where 30 minutes ago I tasked these lovely people here with going out and tickling your funny bones with as many facts as they could find about bones, skeletons, things like that. So, coming straight to your cranium, first up, Tom, hit us.
There are more episodes of bones than there are bones in the human body, unless you're a baby, in which case there are less episodes of bones than there are in a human body.
Fewer.
That's a great fact. Fewer.
Thank you,
Yes.
Sam.
That's a great fact. I love that.
206, for those of you who don't know, for those of you who don't realize, there are 206, possibly 207, apparently.
207 if you ask nicely.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the variation is, though, because it's like there's 206 or 207 in a human body. I'm like, where's that extra one coming from? I don't see where it goes.
When a mummy and a daddy love each other very
Guys,
much.
I don't need this. I have two kids,
it's
and that was an accident.
That's because not everyone has 12 ribs. Some people have 13 ribs.
Anyway, there are 206 bones in an adult body. There are 243 episodes of bones. And there are 270 bones in a baby.
You know how they say the inside of every person is a good book waiting to get out? Inside of every baby is a really long-running TV series, but they forget all the dialogue by the time they're 3.
Every episode of Bones seems very similar to me, but nevertheless, there are 200 and something of them. That's great. Jen, could you tell us a fact about bones, please?
I can indeed. I would like to tell you about people who were born on the same day, David, as Bones McCoy. But what, I hear you say? Bones McCoy was born in 2227. That's 205 years from now. But would you believe me if I told you that actually Bones McCoy has been portrayed in fiction by 2 different people? It's true. Sam, have I really annoyed you by doing this fact?
Really annoyed me.
So the first Bones was born on the same day as Federico Fellini, the Italian director. That was DeForest Kelley, who played Bones in the original Star Trek TV series.
And was in the show that we've referenced in a previous podcast, in the Rabbits podcast, Night of the Lepus, the greatest movie of all time.
So he was born on January the 20th, 1920. But much more excitingly, Carl Urban, who played Bones in the more recent film adaptations, I think there's more than one of them, because he was born on the same day as Grease, the day the first patent over a genetically engineered organism was issued, which, Kenny, for your benefit,
Look at Sam's face.
a strain of pseudomonas bacteria that could consume crude oil, which is really, really cool. But way more excitingly, Carl Urban was born exactly 12 years before all of your favorite person, me, because Carl Urban was born on my birthday in 1972.
I love the look on Sam's face for all that. It just looked like someone was pooping into his ice cream. Like, it just...
It's like watching someone just give all of the spoilers for Game of Thrones.
You know his name is Carl Urban, right?
No, it's
Is
Urban.
No, it's Urban. Both
No, it's
Keith
Urban.
Urban and Carl Urban are both called Urban.
No, it's Keith Urban and Carl Urban.
You're completely wrong, because I know this because I wrote a song about them and how I can't tell them apart. And so I went on a deep dive into Carl and Keith Urban, because I couldn't remember which one was which, because one of them's a singer and the other's slightly thinner, and one of them has got long hair. I thought they both were from Australia, but then that was a huge failure because it turns out they were both born here. They're both New Zealanders.
Is Keith Urban a Kiwi?
Yes!
Yeah. I think from now on we should also refer to Carl Urban by his full name, Karl Heinz Urban, because his actual name is Karl Heinz.
Like
So
the
cool.
sauce.
You never be a Kiwi until you love Carl Urban.
Carl
What is
Urban.
sauce?
Jen, thank you very much for colluding with me and...
Yeah, I may have messaged Kenny and said, please let me go before Sam.
Oh, fuck off.
Sam, can you tell us where you've put your phalanges, please?
Did you know that Leonard McCoy was called Bones before he was called Leonard McCoy? None of the facts you had about Leonard McCoy were the same as my facts. Yes.
Awesome.
So Bones McCoy was called Bones before he was called Leonard McCoy because Sawbone was the initial name that people used for surgeons. And so they went and called him Bones. And I thought that was funny because then I found out that DeForest Kelly played him. And when you deforest something, what do you use? A saw. And that's Sawbones. It's the other side of Sawbones. It was great. And what happens if you deforest an area? It becomes a bit more urban.
Also, Colin Baker, who played the sixth incarnation of Doctor Who, his Twitter handle is Sawbones Hex, the sixth Doctor.
That's clever.
So, back to you, Jen, for the next fact, please.
Well, speaking of bones, would you take a bone palace tour led by a cannibal?
Yes.
Woo-hoo. Take it where?
No hesitation.
Yeah, hell yeah. Sounds awesome.
So this relates to the catacombs in Paris, which are an ossuary which holds, ossuary being a place where bones are kept. So it holds approximately...
That's two, Jen.
Oh, seriously?
This is just great. I'm going to put Jen ahead of Sam every time.
Do you know what? I studied anatomy at university. Like, I can tell you about bones, but I was like, nah, these guys are going to do bones. I'll do the things that aren't bones.
How could you not have assumed that I was going to go for structures made out of bones? The catacombs in Paris hold approximately 6 million humans worth of bones. We don't know exactly how many because the process of putting them in there was pretty haphazard. So in the late 1700s, about 1786, they started shipping under cover of darkness just wagons of remains from the overflowing cemeteries inside Paris to literally a mine shaft where they just yeeted them all in there. But appropriately, the catacombs start at the Barrière d'Enfer, which is the gate of hell, which was one of the former city gates, which I feel like if you've got a bunch of gates around a city and they're like, oh yeah, that one's the gate of hell, you'd be like, maybe I won't use that one. So
That's
don't know why that was
for looking for where the bones are.
Yeah, exactly. But then about 25 years later, in about 1810, the director of the Paris Mine Inspection Service, completely outside his remit, decided to make all the bones look pretty and started turning them into basically decor. God. He made them into these beautiful like arrangements and created like effectively sort of mosaics with bones. And then the catacombs kind of got forgotten about. They got rediscovered in the early 19th century and they started to hold concerts there and things. And it's kind of been a bit of an underground location, pun intended, ever since.
Oh, that's
but
good.
Today, if you want to go and visit this underground labyrinth, one of the people who runs tours there is Nicolas Clot. He's a few months older than Karl Urban. He was born March the 22nd, 1972. And when he was 22, he murdered a 34-year-old man called Thierry Bissonnier, and he claims that he partly ate this man in an apartment which he claims where vertebrae and leg bones hung from the ceiling like morbid mobiles. So there is some dispute by police and between police and him about whether he was a cannibal, he had murdered other people, etc., etc. It seems like he might just be someone who has some pretty severe mental health issues, but he does run tours and he advertises himself as a cannibal. So if you want to take a tour with a cannibal, you can do this. And there's a fantastic piece that David Farrier, who's a Kiwi journalist, did in his Webworm newsletter in 2021, where he interviews this guy, and it's fascinating. I highly recommend it. It sounds amazing, and I absolutely would not go on this tour for many reasons, one of which being I don't want to risk getting eaten, but also because I'm scared of the catacombs. They sound terrifying.
I've been there.
Is it amazing? I feel like it would be amazing but also terrifying.
The bones didn't freak me out at all. The because it's just cranium, skulls and femurs. That's all there are. So there's not like weird.
And who hasn't seen lots of those?
Yeah, we've all seen them, thousands of them. And but the thing about me is the ceiling height was really low, so it felt like I was about to be crushed to death, which I think might be my only fear.
It does go quite close to the metro as well and rattle at times, which is a bit unnerving.
And it's all built into like old limestone quarries, isn't it? So it's a very unstable building material.
It falls through all the time. Like they have people like in your backyard in Paris the basement will just fall through into the catacombs and you'll die.
Yeah.
But like in Disneyland, they get new exhibits by making them. In the catacombs, that's just like it happens.
Well, one of the most recent people to be buried in the catacombs
Flexi.
is a doorman who just wandered off into the catacombs and got lost, and they didn't find him for 11 years. And he's now got a little tomb that was built on the spot where his body was found.
It's amazing
And
he did that before he died.
Yeah. I do feel like every time I read about the catacombs, it's amazing, but it's also kind of terrifying just how massive it is.
They go in them in Les Mis.
Yeah.
That's
One bone more.
Didn't they bury some of the people who died in the revolution in the catacombs?
Probably.
There's a lot of bones down there.
A lot of bones down there.
A lot of bones down there.
I might pass it over to Sam for his fact.
Tim Burton was born the same day as instant noodles. Stay with me. Stay
Tim
with me.
Burton.
Tim Burton, the famous director, married to Helena Bonham Carter, Nightmare Before Christmas, etc., was born the same day as instant noodles. What's that got to do with bones? Let me tell you. So Tim Burton, he, as well as directing movies, also directs music videos, and he directed a music video for The Killers, and the song was called Bones. Don't you wanna know me? Don't know the words.
I've never
Don't
heard
you
it.
wanna feel,
Don't you want to feel my boner?
on your
Hey.
bones? And I found out that song came out on November the 27th in 2006, the same day that Pamela Anderson, Selma Blair, and Kid Rock all got divorced.
From each other.
Wow.
Sad thruple.
Kid Rock and
Yeah, you're
Pamela
supposed to
Anderson,
have a
yes.
three-way. Yeah.
Selma Blair, no. I started my journey going through the Tim Burton thing, and then I found out that Tim Burton was born the same day as Instant Noodles, and I think that's the best fact
Yeah.
ever.
What day were Instant Noodles born? Like, is it 100 years ago?
It was on
Or-
the same day that Tim Burton was born, on August the 25th, 1958.
That seems remarkably recent. But
Yeah.
Cool.
That's like
Is this
that's like packet ramen, the stuff that you add water to. It's the instant
Yeah,
stuff,
is
not
this the
the
Japanese
not-
instant noodle company?
yeah, not noodles, which have been around for at least 2 weeks longer than that.
Yeah. You can go to, there's an instant noodle museum in
Listen.
Japan. There is a replica of the hut that he was living in when he made it, and it has power shells in the chicken coop out the back.
Oh,
Power, yeah, because they give it to chickens like a because it's like a calcium
Oh.
snack for them. So they hang up the shells and they kind of nibble at it and they get calcium to make their eggs.
and they're
Also
pretty.
gives them somewhere to stub out their cigarettes as well.
Yeah.
Tom.
Well, speaking of something that takes 2 minutes, let me tell you about giving someone the bone and where did that come from? Well, it turns out, and Skinny, you probably know this.
Yes, I think
there
I
is in
do.
fact a penis bone. We
What?
don't have it. Humans lost it. We
Baculum.
don't know. Yep, the baculum. That's what we're talking about. The baculum. We don't have one. Lots of animals do. No one
Yeah.
exactly
Speak for
knows
yourself.
why. Well, yeah, but Jen, you've collected yours over many years and many, many victims. But yeah, so this is the baculum. So many animals have it. Most apes have it. Most primates have it. Most mammals have it. Frogs apparently not as much. But so the baculum is thought to be where the myth of God taking Adam's rib comes from, because it's the idea that he didn't take what, because I remember hearing about this, when I was a kid and being like, oh, do I have one less rib than most women? Like, is that a thing? It's not a thing. All humans have the same number of ribs, technically. But so the idea is that God took the baculum out of humans and used that to create Eve. But that's not my best fact. So
How bad was ancient Christians' biology if they confused penis, bone, and rib? Those are in quite different places than most people I've met.
it's a mistranslation, I think. But lots of animals have them, walrus in particular. And this is so they've been used for lots of different things because they're kind of a particular shape, and so they can, they're often used as like a good luck charm. But walrus baculum are quite large, they're 18 inches, which must be nice. They're called an usik. And the late United States Congressman Don Young for Alaska was known to have one of those 18-inch walrus baculums and brandished it like a sword during congressional hearings. This was in the 1990s. This is not that long ago.
I thought you were going to say like the 1850s.
No, he was.
I'm quite glad humans don't have bacilli, because imagine going into the catacombs and there was just 3 million of them.
Breaking it would be the worst.
You'd have to put it in a cast. You'll be swinging around, knocking things off tables. It'll be amazing.
Do that already. All right.
Sam,
I started thinking about bone broth. You know, that's a thing, bone broth. I've heard of it. I don't really know what it is, so I looked it up. And it's exactly what I thought it was. It's when you make stock, basically. It's with bones and stuff and meat from animals and leftover vegetables and things like that. But I found out that really common for paleo people to just get bone broth. They buy it from the supermarket. It's very good for you. It's literally the same as stock. So I looked up how much bone broth costs from New World near me, and it costs, for 500 grams of it, it costs $13.59, and you can get the same amount of beef stock for $2.50. So I would say maybe save your money and just buy some stock.
Better living, everyone.
We wrote a task for Taskmaster, and it was called Stock Exchange, and it was about trading in little bottles of stock. And we spent so long working on it. It was this really great game. And then we got to the end of working on it, and then people were like, "This is a really shit game. You've just made this because the pun Stock Exchange." And we're like, "Yeah, that's true." So we never done it.
You got us.
I'll play Stock Exchange. It sounds cool.
Yeah, I found it very fun.
Tom.
I'm going to tell you about a bone that is named the unnamed bone.
Baltimore.
No, it's actually the hip bone. So the hip bone, its actual name is the innominate bone, otherwise known as the unnamed bone, because no one named this bone, except that we now call it the hip bone and not the innominate bone. But it's the innominate bone, the unnamed bone.
Isn't it the ischia or something like that?
That's part of it, but we don't know. It's unnamed.
No, Ischia is a place. But Ischia is also the fused bit at the back, I think.
Yeah,
yeah.
Right?
I think so, yeah. And then there's the iliac crest and all that stuff. But we don't know because none of them have names.
I'm literally touching my iliac crest right now.
I don't think you are. You're touching your unnamed.
Public.
Yeah, and you're also touching your unnamed bone, and I would rather you didn't.
Yeah, all right, Louis C.K.
Jen, could you hit us with a fact, please?
Bones prove Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is a shiro.
What?
Explain how.
So, antlers grow out of a small bony growth called a pedicle, and they're completely made of bone. So they're covered in velvet and have blood vessels as well, which seems very unnecessary, but badass. And they're only sported by males, except in reindeer, where both sexes grow antlers. And like all antlered animals, they shed their antlers every year. So there's amazing big, like, old stags that you see with the huge antlers. They've grown them since the previous year, which I think is genuinely very cool. But reindeer, males and females shed them at different times. So males shed them in November, and females hang on to them until they've finished bearing their calves in May, presumably to give them some kind of protection while they're childbearing.
Sorry.
But that means...
Did you say bearing? Bearing. I thought, geez, they got grim.
They're hardcore. So they have their kids in around May, and then they drop their antlers after that. But that means that at Yuletide, the only antler-bearing reindeer are females. So Rudolph and Donner and Dancer and Prancer and Blitzen and Comet and Cupid and whatever, all females, all lady reindeer.
What's interesting about that is also that horns are bones. So and horns are true bones. So if you're truly horny, you're truly bony.
Yeah, if you go to Nara in Japan, they have the sacred deer who bow down to you to get treats, but they've got they file their horns down, but so you can see them when you go up to them, and they've got like flat horns, and you can see like rings inside the horns of like years of growth. It's quite spooky and freaky, but very cool.
And that means it's time for a word from our sponsors. Have you found yourself wearing tight black pants, smoking tiny cigarettes, and wearing a pink scarf even when it's summer? I hate to tell you this, but you have to grin and bear it. The resistance is futile. You have got being French. It is not all bad. You can annoy the English by existing. You can eat pastries constantly and somehow still be elegant. But you should probably stay away from Greenpeace boats. Here's the kicker. Here's the entire reason I wrote this. For help, appelez-vous tout de suite. Use the code BONHEUR420. stand for happiness.
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 This is the weirdest.
That is the
and
entire
weirdest
reason I
topic.
wrote that. Tom.
I'm going to tell you about Frog Wolverine. This is a frog that is Wolverine, the X-Men.
Yeah, cool.
And I will not go any further into this.
That's got to
No,
work.
moving
Sure.
on.
No further questions.
Amazing fact.
So a lot of people know about.
Did you know that Hugh Jackman is a frog?
Actually-
That's the fact.
So no. So this is the hairy African frog, which is a great name for a frog. So a lot of animals have interesting defense mechanisms, and for this particular frog, its defense mechanism is that it literally breaks its toes, and the bones of its toes push out through its skin and perform sharp cat-like claws, and it just says all this so the predator is intimidated and leaves. It never actually really scratches or attacks it. It just goes, oh! And the predator goes, oh, Jesus Christ, oh, fuck, and leaves.
I love that the predator comes up, they see that, and they're like, holy shit, it's Hugh Jackman. And they run away.
Doesn't
They
that
run
hurt?
away to get their friend and be like, I've just seen Hugh Jackman.
Got to get my phone. Where's my phone?
Doesn't it hurt? Brr, brr.
Then, can you out-metal that?
I kind of can.
What?
So my fact was about the fact that bones are tough. So Mexican-American drug cartels dissolve their victims in chemicals, which is a process they call making pozole after a Mexican stew. But it takes hours. And so I was looking into other people who've dissolved bodies in acids and lye and how long it's taken. I found an article from Stanford University which recommended using lye rather than acid because although it takes longer, it's less dangerous to you if you get it on your skin. And you can buy it in larger quantities without being flagged because acids are often tightly controlled because they're used in bomb making. And you can buy lye for like soap making and stuff. So it's not as concerning if you buy it.
What is lye?
It's it's like granules basically. So it's like an acid but in solid form.
It's a really strong base. It's actually probably what you probably have some at home, Sam. It's basically drain cleaner. I have got some on my face before and it burnt incredibly badly.
Stanford also recommended you could just use over-the-counter drain cleaner, but they said it's quite diluted, so you'll have to use a lot more.
But you can buy, like in New Zealand at a hardware store, you can buy pure lye. And I've done it in the garden.
Is that true? Or are you telling a?
Yeah, I do science demonstrations, and there's a very fine line between being a science educator and looking like a serial killer.
And Tom crosses that line recklessly.
So
People use it to make soap, and at the start
homemade
of
soap.
hydrogen.
movie about the Fight Club where they go and steal fat people's soap.
And you can toughen up your skin with it as well. I think it's used in some. But I also looked in
spin bowlers. Yeah, toughen up.
Oh yeah. But also, I was looking into there's a new thing that all the cool kids are doing called resomation or water cremation. It's not legal in New Zealand yet, but they're trying to get it legalized. And they don't give a recipe on the website I found, but they say they use water and a small amount of alkali-based solution. And it's apparently the most environmentally friendly way for your body to be disposed of at the end of your life. And what you're left with after the process has taken place is essentially ashes, and they're given back to the family just like with a normal fiery cremation.
I love that you like the most human way to get rid of a body is to turn them into human stock. I think that's great.
Yeah.
It's wrong as well that the most environmentally friendly way to dispose of your body is to just give yourself to the vultures.
Sam, could you give us a fact, please?
Do you want to buy a skeleton?
Yes.
Because you can. It's legal in 47 out of the 50 states in America. And you can buy, or if you're a bit of a wimp and don't want a real live skeleton, you could get a fake one from Dick Smith's for $587. And I thought that was funny because it says Dick.
Speculum Smiths.
Please explain real life skeleton.
You know, like
so could you buy someone else's skeleton, like Skeleton Futures? Like you walk past people in the street and go like,
you got good bones. I want to buy them bones.
Bones, them, dry bones.
That song, Kenny, is an old spiritual. Like it's actually an old that's the hip bones connected to the X bone. They used to sing them out in the fields.
Where is it legal to have skeletons here, or like is it illegal to buy them but okay if you possess them? Because I remember like my old school had a skeleton.
Where can I get a skeleton, Sam?
The answer's inside you all along.
Yeah, I'm sort of tempted to give the win to that joke. I think we've got time for one quick fire fact round.
Dominoes are often called bones, and some fun domino games that you can play. Dominoes were named after the Venetian Carnivale costume. Some fun domino games include Texas 42, Chicken Foot, Double Fives, and Mexican Train. And Colonel Henry T. Titus played Captain Clark Rice for the right to name Titusville, Florida, in 1873. Can you guess which of those named Titusville?
X-rays were discovered in 1895. They were worked out by a man called Wilhelm Röntgen. And he didn't patent it. He's one of those cool guys that was like, no, you guys go use it. It was in Germany. Germans were using it like weeks later. Circuses used to use it as a thing that you'd go and have your photo in the X-ray booth. And the very next year, it had made its way to America and everyone was using it. And this guy is a cool guy. 1895.
Hyenas eat so much bone that their poo turns white.
Same.
Different reason.
Different white. So you can tell how powerful an animal's bite is partly by its sagittal crest, which is this kind of this kind of ridge of bone along the top. Hyenas basically, if you look at a hyena skull, it looks like a shark fin. It's just this one single massive sagittal crest. So cool.
So we've had some great facts just looking through. I think out of all of the facts, I can't see bringing on Baculum to you, Tom. A good fact about what put the bone in boners is always going to win in this sort of round.
As in my previous ad about Bone Town, I think I foreshadowed this particular one. And who put the bone in the bone to bone to bone? It was me. I'm very glad that I did bone effects.
So like, comment, subscribe. We wish you lots of bonheur over the next week. And please join us again where Tom will be introducing the next topic.
Peace!